Blackbird on the wing, bird of the forest shadows, black rose in the long ago summer. This was your song. It is in time that's passing by, my friend. It is you and I.
As the English nut, it's a dream come true for me to be able to meet him and talk to him. Thank you so much, Mr. Bond.
Thank you for arranging this little get-together, and I look forward to chatting to you and about books, writing, anything under the sun.
You know, one of the words that is in danger of perhaps going out of circulation today is philately.
Oh.
And that is something that has a lot of significance in your life, starting with your childhood and your father. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, my father was a great stamp collector. He did it both. For him, it was both a hobby and, in a way, he was a specialist in that he also bought stamps from. Stanley Gibbons was a big philatelic company in Britain, in London, and he would buy from them and even sell to them. And he would get those big fat catalogs, the Stanley Gibbons catalog, which catalogued all the stamps that had been printed world over. And so you could build up a set, you could look for stamps that were rare and that you wanted, and the catalog would also give you the buying price or the selling price of the current value of these stamps. And I would read them up too. And of course, whenever I helped him to sort his stamps, he often had to sort them out into countries, the loose ones. He would tell me about different countries or the place that was depicted on the stamp. So I learned a lot of geography that way and history.
and I think you excelled in geography because of the stamp collecting.
Yes, right. So when I went to school, I was always top in geography, and I think it goes back to the stamp collecting, which has gone out of fashion now. But it's gone out of fashion with children and with young people. Because there's so many other attractions now on the internet, on their laptops, etc. But when I was a boy, every second kid was a stamp collector, and we'd exchange stamps and specialize in different countries or birds or animals. But that's all gone, except the fact that there are still specialist collectors, and they deal in stamps in a big way, and some rare stamps are extremely valuable. That penny black, that used to be, there are just 3 in existence, and each one is worth a few $1 million.
Which was a misprint, I think.
No, it's just that there are 3 left. Because it first printed in the 1820s or 30s somewhere. Right. At that time, people weren't collecting. So the very early stamps sometimes, they just disappear. And there are not many left. But you're right, a misprint can also make a stamp valuable.
Yeah.
So sometimes if say, Abraham Lincoln's 1 year is missing or something from the picture, that will be worth a lot of money.
Right. In fact, I also collected stamps as a child, which is why I know a little bit about it. But of course, my stamp collection has disappeared. Like you mentioned, that your father's and yours also disappeared.
Yes, it did. Yeah. You see, when I was in boarding school, 10 years old, when my father was in Kolkata, and he died there, and so I never saw his stamp collection again. And he had a very valuable collection. He had a trunk full of albums, an album for each country,
Right.
And he would spend a lot of time and a lot of investment in them too. So
yeah,
somebody helped himself.
Yeah. You mentioned that your impecunious relatives possibly
Quite
made
possibly.
Them
well, they would have
disappear.
had the best opportunity.
But one incident that you wrote about was when you were in Delhi with your father, that an American lieutenant or lieutenant came over and he sold some very valuable stamps to him.
Yes.
And you were particularly delighted because you got a lot of gifts and a lot of treats after that, including, I think he gave you a game of Bagatelle.
Bagatelle.
Yeah.
Well, Bagatelle was a funny game. I don't know if you still get them. It was a board, and you pushed a sort of metal marble, an iron marble, and it ran around on the board and lodged in. There were various holes signifying different numerical sort of. And if you were playing with somebody, whoever made the most got the highest number of
points.
It didn't require much skill, but it was quite popular at the time.
Yeah.
And you could play with yourself too. And I was often left on my own whenever my father, who was then in the RAF, he would go off to duty in the mornings and come back in the evenings. So I had to somehow get through the day. This was in Delhi in 1943, 44. And so I would get through the day with different things. I had a dartboard. I had this bagatelle. Then I had a nice old-fashioned gramophone, and a box of about 50 records. And I would keep playing the records over and over again.
Right.
And then, of course, I had a few books, and Alice in Wonderland and Treasure Island and Peter Pan and, the boys' classics. I did read. I became a more prolific reader actually after he passed away, because, I spent so much time with him walking about and going here and there that I became a reader when I became a sort of lonely 11 or 12-year-old in school and in my mother's and stepfather's home. So then I became a terrific reader, and till today I'm a reader first and a writer second, put it that way.
Right, right. So, speaking about games, there was another game that you've mentioned called Beggar My Neighbor, I think, which you played with Miss Kellner later on. What is that game?
Well, I've never become much of a card player. In fact, I've played cards as an adult. But Miss Kellner was a crippled old lady who was my grandmother's tenant in Dehradun. And I made friends with her because she was very kind. My grandmother was strict. I'd get my bread and butter, a tea, and that was it. Whereas Miss Kellner had in her pantry, cakes and meringues and curry puffs and things like that. And I had access to them. And she was a kind old lady, and I'd sit and talk to her, and she would play, because when she was alone, she'd play cards with herself. Okay. A game called Patience.
Right.
But with me, she had these simple games. One was called Snap, in which if you both placed the same card or the same on the table, whoever said Snap first grabbed the cards. And so I usually beat her to it. And Beggar My Neighbor was another one. I don't remember the rules, but that's the only time in my life I've played cards. With this old lady who was in her 60s or 70s, I can't tell, but she couldn't walk. She had to be carried about in a chair. Right. But she was comfortably off. That's why she could afford all these cakes and things.
Right. I wanted you to read the It Isn't Time That's Passing, your poem. Yeah.
But I don't remember, is the whole poem here? It was part of a poem. There it is, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for copying it out. It isn't time that's passing. Remember the long ago when we lay together in a pain of tenderness and counted our dreams, long summer afternoons when the whistling thrush released a deep, sweet secret on the trembling air. Blackbird on the wing, bird of the forest shadows, black rose in the long ago summer, this was your song. It isn't time that's passing by, my friend. It is you and I. I wrote this in about 1960, and when I first came to Missouri, and it was, you know, who first published it was P. Lal,
Writer's Workshop.
Writer's Workshop. He brought out a slim volume of my poems.
Okay.
Called It Isn't Passing By.
Okay. Mr. Bond, thank you very much. It was.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. You made me talk. Normally, I'm a very silent person.
I'm really, really fortunate that you opened up and you were very, very sporting about it.
I am the English nut. Bye for now.
I'm the English nut. Bye for now. I have a special announcement to make for the fans of Ruskin Bond, which is the launch of a new venture called the Ruskin Bond Collections, which consists of signed copies of his books, combinations of different books, books with objects like this lovely stuffed toy.
Timothy the Tiger Cub.
Timothy the Tiger Cub. So you're going to find all this and more if you go to www.ruskinbond.in.